Hi, I'm Trey, and I do stuff. And today we are going to talk about taking notes as part of a magical practice, which is a topic that, if you've seen any of my other videos, you know that I love and am willing to talk about all the time. This is not going to be another video in that series, really. It's kind of an addendum video. I'm going to talk about another option for taking notes in a digital context. When I did the first, so if you're not familiar with the videos, I will link them in the description of this video. But there is the very first video that I did is talking about the theory and practice of taking good notes, in my opinion, and then applying that theory with a particular digital tool called TiddlyWiki, which is a great option. And I still stand by that. And then I did a second video kind of recapping. That video was for a class, but it recaps the theory portion, and then it dives into applying those same principles to pen and paper. Taking notes in a good old-fashioned notebook with a pen. This time, I'm going to talk to you about another digital tool, which I think I've come around to being the best option to apply the principles that I talk about in those videos in a digital context. And I'll talk about why that is, but I also want to show you in the application how you apply some of these principles and why it's amazing. As a software tool. So we'll dive right into that. Before we really get into that, though, there's a couple things I want to talk about that are sort of meta topics on software and where your information and your data is stored. I talked about this a little bit in the first video. One of the reasons why I picked TiddlyWiki is because it's open source software. It's been around for a really long time. And ultimately, it creates a single file which you own. It doesn't come with the presumption of putting it into a particular platform storage system. For example, Microsoft pushing you to OneDrive, or Apple pushing you to iCloud, or Google pushing you to Google. It doesn't make any assumptions about how you're going to store the information. If you want to store it on your computer and back it up to a USB thumb drive, you're absolutely able to do that. And this software does the exact same thing. While you can, and I certainly do, back it up to a cloud service, or to multiple cloud services, as I do, it's not a requirement, and it's very easy because, as we'll get into, the files are human readable, completely understandable files. Even if you weren't using this software, it's basically just a folder structure of Markdown files. And if you're familiar with Markdown, they're just text files that have some formatting that looks nice. So it's very easy to take that data, move it around, back it up, put it on a thumb drive, automatically back it up to a cloud storage provider, et cetera, et cetera. And it puts you in control of where the data is and who you decide. If you're going to pay somebody to store it, you get to decide where that gets stored. So anyway, I just wanted to cover that as kind of one of the really nice things about it. It's also free software. There is a pay version, and I'm going to show that I pay for it. And if you decide to use it, I highly encourage you to pay for it as well. A lot of the people, myself included, that work on open source software, we do this out of love, and love doesn't pay the bills. So if you get value out of it, you should certainly pay for it. And I'll show how to do that in a second as well. Anyway, that's a lot of preamble. Why is it cool, Trey? Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm going to create a new vault, and maybe I'm going to create a new vault. There we go. Just to demonstrate kind of from a blank slate. Vaults in Obsidian are the highest level container, and you can't, as far as I know, link between vaults. So for example, if you were going to use Obsidian for taking notes as part of your magical practice, you might have a vault called Magic, for example, and then put all of your stuff for your practice in there. Then you might have a different vault, which is for your work clients, let's say. And if you didn't think there was ever going to be if your work clients are not, tarot readings or something like that you thought were going to be part of your, anyway, it's the top level thing that you're not really going to be able to link between. So pick a top level thing and then just work within that, basically. So I'm going to say demo vault. I'm just going to put this on the desktop for right now. Boop. Great. Okay, so now we're in the software. There's nothing in here because I just created a new vault. Again, I'm not going to rehash the theory stuff. So if you want to catch the theory and practice on taking good notes, watch one of the prior two videos. I'm just going to show here exactly how, not exactly how, somewhat similar to what I did in those prior videos. So I'm going to make a new note, and let's just say that this was some reading that I did. And in here, so it's markdown text. If you watch the first video and I talk about wiki text in the context of TiddlyWiki, this is somewhat similar. And in fact, some of the syntax is exactly the same. Markdown is just a way of allowing you to format text that makes it look nice, whether you're looking at it as raw text or whether you're looking at it as a HTML document or a PDF or something like that, all of which you can output from the software, or pretty much anything that supports Markdown. It's very good. I'll put a link also to the documentation on Markdown. There's a lot you can do with it, but it's also very simple. So, let's say that I had this reading and, I had some layout. And then in the first one, the first card that came up was the Fool, because why not? So if you remember from the first video that I did, you can create a link between things by using two brackets. Ignore that little tooltip. We're going to get into that in a second. If I enclose this text into brackets, just like you do in a wiki, that creates a link to this thing. And if I click on it, it will automatically create the thing because it doesn't already exist. And I can just say, this is my notes on the Fool. Cool, right? So this is exactly like you might remember from the thing that we did in the first video from TiddlyWiki, the thing that we did, TiddlyWiki. So now we've already got, sort of that same principle. You have outline over here on the left. There's a bunch of different ways that you can view information, and I'm going to show a couple of them in this, but this is basically the sort of high-level organization. You can create folders, so I could put all of this under like a folder called Tarot, and then I could just move these things into there, and now these things are in here. All of the links and everything will continue to work because it's smart software. So this is all cool and dandy. Let's say that I have another, the second card that came up in this reading was the Magician. Now, in TiddlyWiki, they don't do this quite as well as they do in Obsidian, this software. So if I do the two open brackets, it will give me look ahead for any of the entries that I already have in this vault, which is really nice. They've done a really great job on this. So if I wanted to, particularly if I'm doing long form writing and I wanted to just link to something else that's already in my notes, I could just type double brackets and I can start typing the thing. It's pretty good on the fuzzy search on this too. So like if you could just remember, one word in the title, it's very likely to come up, or it'll be in the first like handful of answers. So let's say that the next card that came up was the Magician, because why not? So now we've got two cards that are in here. I can go to the Magician, and obviously it creates that entry. It did create it in the wrong place. There's a couple of things that I've noticed that are, if I close this vault and I reopen it, and then I did that same thing that I just did now, it would put it in the right place. So there's, not everything is exactly perfect, but I think the flaws are very minimal. And every software has bugs, as any software engineer will tell you. So, here are my notes on the Magician. I'm typing very badly. Okay, so going back to our reading. Now we can see that we have these two links. Oh, by the way, you can also go into, this is the sort of preview mode. So you can see it as like actually formatted without the specific formatting text of Markdown. So that's what it would look like if you were viewing it in HTML, for example, or as a PDF. So obviously we've shown very easy to create links to other things. One of the really nice things that is provided out of the box by Obsidian is if you hover over one of these links, you will get the preview of what that thing is, which I think is pretty cool. If you go to the particular thing, there's this little arrow to expand out a tray that's on the right-hand side, which is all options related to this specific file. And one of the things that it has in there is a thing called backlinks. And what backlinks are is a reference back to anything that references this thing. So from here, it's very easy to say there was this reading for foo, which had the fool come up. If you remember from my first video, one of the things that you really want to be able to easily do within your notes database is to understand the connections that happen between all of these things. So if I have 20 readings that the fool card came up in, and I had different interpretations of that fool card in all those different readings, my general understanding of what the fool card means should be in this one place where I can always find it. However, being able to know that it came up in all these different readings, they would just show up in this list right here, right? Everything that you've linked to, this is the link back to it. And then you could just click on the thing and then you can see what it links back to. So that's super handy. Another cool thing is this graph view, which gives you a graphical representation of the relationship between the things in your note system. Now, I'm going to show you a vault that I have that is an import from some older note-taking systems, which were all in either Markdown or Wikitext, which I imported into a vault in Obsidian. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail there because that's my personal magical notes, but I'm going to show you a graph that's got a lot more data. So you can see how cool this is. But you can see here that, I have a central thing, which is this one reading that I did, and then I have these cards. Now, if I had something that was, say, an index file that had all of the tarot cards linked from, just from a single entry into, an index into all of the tarot cards, then that linkage would also be shown here. So there'd be another dot here, which would be like that index, and then the links to the cards as well. So it gives you a way to visualize your notes in exactly the way that I drew the picture in that first video, where you want it to be a web. This is how brains work. Brains don't work in a linear fashion where you have to rely upon your memory to know what date, for example, a particular thing happened when it was 5 years ago. If you're using dates as your, a lot of people don't use any kind of, and I didn't do this, so this is not judgment on my part, but if you don't use any kind of system to get into your notes, if you've got just notebooks sitting on a shelf, good luck. Good luck going back and finding like, oh, I had this sense of this contact, and I remember it came up in this reading that I did, or it came up in this ritual context. I want to go back and reference that thing. Well, who knows? Who knows where that is? So yeah, I covered a lot of that stuff in the theory part of it too. But anyway, this gives you kind of like this graph view, I think is really, I've found that in using this software over time, it's not a frequently used feature, but it is a handy feature when you do want to use it. So that's kind of the very high level here. There is a ton more that you can do with this. Another thing that's a little bit of a pain in TiddlyWiki, which I demoed when I showed when I did that prior video. One of the things that's really nice is you can finish the sentence, Trey. I showed in that initial video I talked about in that initial video that putting an image or a PDF or some sort of external document into TiddlyWiki is actually a little bit problematic. You have to link to a file that exists on the file system instead of embedding it in the TiddlyWiki, because if you embed large files in the TiddlyWiki because of the way that it stores its data, it will slow down the opening that file and being able to use it. In this case, they give you, I don't know if you just saw, but I just drag and dropped an image into this entry. And you'll see that a couple of things happened here. One thing that happened is it added the image file to the vault. And then it referenced it from this document. And if I go into preview mode, you can see that that image is already embedded. So this gives you a nice way of, for example, taking a picture of the reading that you did and then just referencing it. And it's all kind of captured in one place. So there is a ton of extra stuff that's in Obsidian. There's a plugin system where there's a vibrant community of people that have extended the functionality. It has Vim bindings. If you don't know what that is, don't worry about it. If you do know what that is, you're very happy to hear those words. And it's really great software. It's really fantastic software. Let's go to the website really quick so I can show you. This is the website. It's obsidian.md for Markdown. All Markdown files are indent.md, which reminds me I'm going to show you the folder structure that it created for that vault as well. You can get it here, and you can download it for whatever platform you have. It runs on every single platform, including on iOS and Android. And this is really fantastic because I have it, for example, on my phone. Actually, let me very quickly bring this up so you can see it. Here, I'll just go to the, I'm going to show this on the desktop here in a second, but there we go. That is the graph that I'm going to show you here in a second, running on my phone. I can also write text and do all of the normal things. A lot of people, or a few people, reached out from the original video asking the question: if I'm out and about and I don't have access to my desktop computer that has TiddlyWiki running on it, how do I take notes? And one of the very common ways to do that, and I think one of the beneficial ways, and the way that I usually do it, is to take an audio message on your phone. However, if you're using a modern phone, like running a reasonably decent iOS or Android, or recent iOS or Android, taking a voice memo that is converted into text on the device is actually quite easy. So you can create a new note within Obsidian on your phone, and then voice dictate into it. And if it gets a couple things wrong, fine, you can go back and fix those things later. So that's another option on that front. Very, very cool. So if you can come here, you can download it, you can completely use it for free. If you want to pay for it, again, I think you should. This is the personal tier, which just allows you to use it forever. This is the one that I do, which you pay a flat fee and it helps to support the project. There's also commercial licenses if you want to use it in a commercial context. There's also, they provide a data synchronization system that's built into the software itself, which will allow you to, without having to do any extra work on your own, get the vault on all of your devices very easily from within the software, and you can pay them for that service. This is also incredibly fantastic. Now, they, behind the scenes, are undoubtedly using one of these other cloud providers. They didn't build that themselves. They're using Amazon S3, or they're using Google, or they're using something else, or maybe some combination of those things. However, you're then working with them and paying them, so they're making money off of the resale of those services, and so you're helping to support the project that way, and it makes it really easy to use from within the software. So you should think about doing that. If you don't want to do that, then it's really pretty trivial to set it up yourself if you want to synchronize via some other cloud service that you already are utilizing. There's also publishing services, which is also really cool, where you can publicly publish portions of your notes if that's something that you're doing. So for example, if you're doing research notes and you want to share those research notes with your community or something along those lines, that is another thing that they have available. Anyway, I am not a spokesperson for Obsidian, but I really love the software. So if you do use it, I think that you should pay for it. Okay, a couple other things before I let you go. I wanted to show you this vault that I created. So when I created that vault, it created a folder in the destination that I selected. And inside of that folder, you can see it is exactly the same structure in just a regular old file system. And each one of these files is just a regular old file. So that image is just a JPEG. That reading that I did, it's got the same title, .markdown. If I look at it, it's the exact same text. So there's nothing magical going on here. Obsidian is doing a bunch of stuff on top of a folder structure of Markdown files to make it really nice and easy to use. But it's, at the end of the day, it's just regular old files and folders. And I think that's one of its really powerful strengths. It just gives you the ability, like if I wanted to go in and edit these files in a completely different editor, I can do that. And they're my files. It's not some, SQL database sitting on some server farm that I don't know where it is, and then it gets compromised and my data is, the data compromise is still something that can happen. I don't want to give you a false sense of security from this model, but it puts more of the control and the power into your hands. So that's that. Oh, and I did promise that I would show you what a big graph looks like. I showed it on the phone, but let me go here and open another. So I'll just open this really quick. Yeah, there we go. So here you can see a much larger graph. All of this stuff that's on the outside are just individual things that are completely non-linked. This was from part of an import from a prior set of notes. We also have, like, for example, I've got a thing here that's tarot. This is an index into tarot cards, exactly like I was describing just a second ago. And I can click on any of these and then I can go into, so all of that stuff that we talked about before. Anyway, that is mostly what I wanted to cover for Obsidian. I hope that you get some value out of this if you haven't decided yet, or you haven't settled on a software system for taking your notes. I think this is a really fantastic place to start. It is, I personally don't know of anything that's better than this. It's also, if you remember from the prior videos that I did, getting to know your system and just digging into it and enjoying it and knowing all the hotkeys. It's got all of that stuff built in. It's got all of the hotkeys. I've got like quick file lookup, command palette. I can, very easily go to global search. I've got, I didn't actually use the word tarot. There you go. All of that good stuff. So you can really going directly into graph mode, split panes, and like all of this stuff. You can really go deep on the software and get really good at it so that it is just second nature for you. All right, that's it. I rambled on for, as per usual, far too long. I was like, I'll make a 10-minute video and it's 22 minutes. So whatever. You're welcome. And I hope to see you all digitally in some context.